Hello everyone, welcome back to Theonopolis. So today we start construction on the second and last extension to the hotel. But we also built the waterfront to spice up the second entrance to the hotel. Also just to give it a bit of a border when it comes to like the hotel area. And I also did say in, I think the last episode, that there might be one more entrance coming up, but I decided against that because one more entrance, like I want the entrances to be a little bit, have a little bit of a wow factor when you look at them, just so that it's a little bit more, well, show office when it comes to the hotel. I mean, a big grand entrance is always impressive when it comes to an hotel, and I just want the entrance to a particular building that is of importance, like a hotel, but also like the Odeon, like every important building in Theonopolis. I want to put special attention into the entrance or the main part of the building. Like the Odeon doesn't really have a real big entrance. Like it has 4 gates divided in 2 pairs at the sides, and there are a few gates at the top, but because that's not like the main part of the Odeon, there's not a huge attention spent on that. It's more attention spent on the actual stage and the actual building part. So because of that, and because the hotel is slowly burying the Odeon from the water side, I decided against building a third entrance because, as I said before, it was going to bury the Odeon behind it, and I think 2 entrances would work out fine. But for the second entrance, or basically the second extension more so, it was a bit strange building because it's really easy to get into one style of building, which for most buildings works great if you have like one cohesive style. But because I want the hotel to have a bit of a feeling like it's extended and expanded over years, I don't want the building to have just one, well, building style, as it were. Sure, there are some, points where it overlaps just to make it really look like one building, or at least have the building look like it all is one function. Thinking of it now, I'm just like, alright, how do I make sense of what I'm saying right now? But yeah, for the look of this extension, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And for a while I struggled with just the windows. Like they are the same windows that I've used in the previous parts of the hotel, but I just wanted something a little bit different, a little bit more, I wouldn't say fancy, because, well, it is actually a more fancy part of the hotel. I mean, the windows are a lot bigger. This is a little bit historically inaccurate, because from what I've seen, there weren't really like big windows, like the image of big windows for me immediately goes to Versailles and like the Hall of Mirrors with those huge ass windows. Like, yeah, you didn't have those. But I decided to just get a little bit of a bigger window and just roll with it because it just looks pretty. Like sometimes sacrifices have to be made to make it look pretty. And now I am again building some kind of separation between the windows, and also a little bit of, I wouldn't say canopies or just something like that, but it's a little bit more towards just, blocking out most of the sun from shining in. What was that sound? But it is mostly just built to protect the windows from any like direct sun, because I mean, I like just a cool room. So yeah, that was just the main thought behind that. Just try not to get direct or like really direct sun into the window. Like have some bit of a cooling effect to it. Like, not that there's no sun coming into the window, because then you would have really dark rooms, but just that on the hottest days, it's not just like you could sunbathe in your own room. Like, it's mainly that. And also just using a little bit of fences to, again, separate the windows. And I really like the pointy ends of these fences, because for some reason it just gives the building a little bit of an edge. Like, it's meant to be intimidating. Like, it's not a friendly building if you really take away the flowers and everything. Or at least this part isn't. But with all those like separation things, you might think that I am really just like, well, I am a shy blob of a human. But it's not that I'm like building real walls. I have no idea where I'm going with this. Again, I think I've stopped saying this for a long time, but sometimes it does really sound like I'm slightly drunk. But then, that's like a mainstay of this channel, so... But just to soften up it a little bit, I added some flower baskets, but it felt weird putting them on all those logs. Yeah, they're just plain logs. But there are a few that I've removed just so that it's not too much boom in your face. Then add some drapery, because why not? But also, yeah, just with plants and such things like that, you can really soften up a building a bit. Or at least that's how I use them. Sometimes I go a little bit overboard with the plants, but here was just like, you have this, well, it's not a terrace, but it's just almost like a flower bit. I don't know. Again, lost the word for it, but I don't think it really has a name. And if it has, please put it down in the comments, because I will probably forget to look it up. But for the rest of the building, I'm not doing the back because, well, that's going to be the next episode. Building basically the back lot of this hotel. And before you ask, no, I'm not going to make the back lot realistic. Like, they're not going to be trash cans and everything. Because, I mean, we're building more of like a Greek city, not really theme park. Or at least that's how I approach Theonopolis. But again, larger windows, though I'm not as sure of these windows as compared to the first set of windows. But they worked out, and it's mainly a bit of like the lower windows are really in your face, they're really busy. So to make the second row of windows also really busy would just be creating a mindfuck, as it were. Like, there needs to be some kind of balance. Like, if you have a really busy part of a building, try to, or at least I try to offset it with a bit more of a calm side to the building, so that, yeah, you can really divert the attention for the building to a certain area. You probably will go to look at the more busy side of the building, but it's also just, you're not looking like crazily around the entire building, which makes the building a little bit more rustic, or just gives the building a little bit of calm. And with a hotel, I don't want the building to be really, well, I want it to be in your face, but not to give you like just whiplash from looking all over the building. But I also want to quickly address something which might work against me, but I think I've said this before, but my style of building is in a way a bit easy, because you see me a lot of times building like one wall, and then I copy that around the building, which is somewhat historically accurate. I mean, from what I know, the Greeks were really into symmetry and such. But that's why I usually am not that really impressed by my own buildings, because sometimes you can really see that there is just a lot of copying going on. So, of course, there are some areas where I can't do that, but I just wanted to quickly mention that, I'm like, yeah, Greek buildings aren't really that hard to build, but you do need to know a little bit about how the Greeks were building and what things they would have used. Anyway, now to the waterfront after a very useless part of this commentary, or at least, yeah, probably is. But I've recently started using these stucco windows a lot. Like, I've used them as some sort of like ancient chimney, because ancient chimneys were, well, they didn't really exist, but I've used them as like just an indication of like a chimney where there's like smoke coming out of it, because it's basically just, well, this window is basically just a hole in the wall with some lost the word for it, and I'm probably not going to get it. Window cover something. But yeah, I use this window lately a lot, and it's just really useful for like that bit more closed off feel, which still fits in with the Greek theme. Shutters! I didn't find the word. Like, there are windows or holes in the walls with just shutters. But yeah, I use them for, as I said, some sort of chimney. Like, that's the best way to describe them. Like, it's just hole in the wall, shutters. So if you're cooking something, you just open it up. And I still think that that is not really historically accurate, but it's just a little bit of like, yeah, it breaks with that historical accuracy, but it also looks good. I'm heavily swinging my arms around to demonstrate some kind of like balancing act, and I am just like realizing like, you guys can't see a thing of what I'm doing. So again, going back into the, sometimes I sound a little bit drunk, sometimes I look a little bit drunk. Yeah, today is one of those days. But back to the waterfront, I didn't want to place a lot of things like right in front of the hotel, because I mean, it's the entrance, and I just wanted it to be a little bit more open, like the rest of the hotel area, where I think this is like the edge of Odeon Square. And again, with Odeon Square, I mean the area, not the actual square, because I think the square is like the name giver for this area, but yeah, it's a long story. But I wanted to first build some kind of terrace, but then I thought like, this would be the best a good location to build some kind of dock. And because this isn't like the complete edge of like the rich part of Theonopolis, or basically the city part of Theonopolis, because I think I've already said this before, but to make the entire park into a city would be a bit, well, I could do that, but I'm already thinking like, we are going to surely hit 100 episodes on Theonopolis. Because right now we are at, well, this is the 43rd episode. I already have plans for what to do in like the 50th episode, but yeah, I'm really wondering like, this park is probably not going to be finished in a year's time. I'm perfectly fine with that. But then again, like building the same thing all over again. Yeah, for the next park, or at least I think the next park will be like in Planet Zoo, I'm not going to build a city. If I do, please slap me in the face. Now I'm really scared that I am going to build a city. Though I really want to build an Eastern Asian zoo. Yeah, the last visit with the lady designer, probably, like, I always read the name, but I never really pronounce it correctly, so I'm already sorry, lady. But latest visit to Blijdorp with the lady designer didn't really help with that. So now I'm just constantly thinking like, can I have Planet Zoo right now? Oh yeah, quickly back to the video. Building some kind of garden or a little bit of garden area so that the terrace for, well, what we built in the last video, so that the terrace has something to look out upon, like that it's just not looking at like the palm trees. Like it has the view of the Acropolis, but I also wanted something pretty to look like right beneath you. Yeah, it's also like maybe the more waiting area if you're like checking in and out of the hotel, or like the pickup area. I have no clue. Like it's just a pretty area, and then I try to make it functional. So I try to add some bit of color to make it look like a small market or a small area where goods are being unloaded from the dock. Also making those goods primarily food and expensive items, as it were. Just to further solidify that, yes, this part of the hotel or this part of the park is wealthy AF. Because I'm building that later, or like adding it later, but I did add pots of like Tyrian purple dye, which was one of the most expensive items in the ancient world. So yeah, it was fun bringing back something from a video that is now unlisted because the attraction that it was going to be is basically dead. Though like recently I've got the the idea to revive that concept of like, well, the dark ride that I was going to build, but let's first build something different that I have announced or somewhat announced, or don't know how to say it, but let's build the next thing first before I get into something completely different. But yeah, now the stairways. This is a bit more park thinking, but also a bit logical thinking. Like there are stairs, but there's also just a slope, or at least a path that just slopes up so that, well, realistically thinking or historically accurately thinking, well, not historically accurate, but just logically thinking, carts are, well, they really have a hard time to get upstairs. So the carts would be, well, carts with food or other products would go up with the slope, and people would just go up with the stairs. That's why also the stairs are a little bit broader. Also because they are like the main path, so but thinking of it in like a park setting, you have a path for people in, let's say, wheelchairs, or who are, well, who don't really want to take the stairs or can't really take the stairs. But also from the top of the stairs, at the crossroad between, well, the top of the stairs and the path to the top of the Odeon, you have a really good view of whatever is going to be on the other side of the water, which is probably going to be a ride or some kind of attraction or just some big building, because I want to live up to that, like everything in Theonopolis is built for the view. And I really mean that. Like every time I build something, I always pan back and look at like, how does it look from this side? How does it look from this side? How does it look from this side? And yeah, sometimes I really just spend a whole day, well, not a whole day because I'm not completely crazy, but a whole playtime session, as it were, just looking around, taking screenshots. And yeah, that's just like on the level of like, I have no motivation to build Rockwork, so I'm just going to basically loop around Theonopolis trying to get some kind of inspiration. But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, I hope to see you back in the next one. I hope you all have an amazing day, and bye bye!